Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. This is your Ebor Festival preview. It is, of course, York this week. We are recording this on Wednesday at about 11:30. So for scheduling reasons, sadly, we won't be covering day one, which is going to get underway in a couple of hours' time. But we've got a full day's racing we can preview on Thursday, as well as the major races on Friday and Saturday as well. So loads for us to get through. Andy, you know, we've been doing these pods for a long time, but for those who haven't, who've only found us recently, what are your general thoughts on this week and York Racecourse as a whole?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make everyone switch off straight away, but it's probably one of my, not say my least favourite meets, I'd say my least successful.
Okay.
Just find York really, really tough. Read one or two other pro punters' approach to this week, and they're similar to mine, really. You get horses that come here for the first time and they're just all at sea at the track. So similar rules apply really to this course as it would say to Royal Ascot or Ascot in general, where you're looking for horses predominantly who've maybe run well here in the past at some stage. You know, you get a lot of horses that keep coming back time and time again. You're sort of like your Copper Knights, that kind of horse, your Northern Expresses. You know, they've sort of big field handicaps, and particularly if you've got horses that run well in under similar conditions, they're fairly reliable. But when you're dealing with 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds that are setting foot there for the first time, you know, like your Melrose handicaps and all your 2-year-old races, for instance, it's lap of the gods, really, whether your horse will handle it. I fancy one today prior to racing called Ballymount Boy, who I think has got quite a bit in hand based on form, you know, with his run behind Van Dijk. But
yeah,
your guess is as good as mine whether he'll go and translate that to the Nagsmire. And I just think because of that, it kind of like, particularly me anyway, makes me stop going in all guns blazing. Whereas if it was on a level playing field somewhere else, a more conventional track, if you like, I'll be a little bit more confident. So I've learned over the years perhaps to treat this meeting with a little bit of caution, even though it's a fantastic meeting and you want to go all guns blazing at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get stuck into the racing. We've got 3 days to cover. As we say, we aren't aware, you know, by the time this goes out, we'd have seen a bit of racing on Wednesday, which in itself will be enlightening as to the ground and whatever else. Any kind of conditions or track bias that the punters should be aware of going into this week?
Only really if you get a change in conditions weather-wise. I think there's a little bit of rain forecast for the back end of the week, so you need to keep your eye on perhaps what happens on Friday, Saturday, which is obviously relevant to this podcast. What tends to happen, they're racing down the middle for the first couple of days where the ground's fairly uniform. And then once sort of like middle to far side gets churned up a bit, the runners then tend to kind of migrate towards the near side. That the Ebor, for instance, in the last 4 or 5 years has been dominated by horses coming towards the stand side. And that's just basically looking for fresher ground more than anything else. Because obviously the sprint track in the week is used by the smaller fields where they congregate down the middle, so that the stand side doesn't get touched as much. And then, like I say, on top of that, you might get a little bit of rain. So there might be a little bit of a shift in bias towards the back end of the week, but we're going to be dealing with Thursday stroke into Friday. It might only be Saturday when that change occurs.
Okay, well, let's get into Thursday's racing. We're going to start off with the Lauda, which is the first race of the day on Thursday. And as ever, Andy, you know, we've got a lot of races to get through, so there's anything you don't have a strong fancy on, we'll move on quickly. But here we have a group of 2-year-olds, and this is often where your insight can be even extra important with your speed figures. Relief Rally is the 2-1 favourite for William Haggis and Tom Marquand. Cherry Blossom 5-2. Flora of Bermuda 9-2. Star of Mystery 9-1. Beautiful Diamond 11-1. 28-1 bar those. 9 runners here, so a nice each way shape to the race. If any of these are overpriced, Andy, how do you see the opener on Thursday?
Yeah, I mean the performance of Relief Rally was very eye-catching last time out in that super sprint at Newbury. She was a bit unlucky at Royal Ascot. I think we all come to that same conclusion. She really should have won the Queen Mary, but just got done on the bob by the American horse. But I don't know if you remember that race at Newbury. It was a day when predominantly most of the winners were middle to far side, as is often the case at Newbury. And she not only overcome the perceived bias, but she actually won going away, like in the style of a really top class filly. She had a blinding turn of foot as well. She left her horses towards the stand sign completely for dead. And once she's in top gear and full cry, she really is a sight to behold. She should really, could say, be 4 for 4. I think she's a genuine Group 1 filly over 5 furlongs. And I think the extra furlong, on the evidence of what we've seen, is bound to play into her strengths. I think she's been crying out for an extra furlong. So here again, if she handles the nose more, the one thing we don't know, then I think she's the right favourite. She'd be my idea of the winner. We have got a couple of horses who have run here before, Symbolology and Dorothy Lawrence. They've probably got a little bit to find on form. Interesting raider from Ireland, Cherry Blossom. She was sent off favourite first of all in a listed race at Navan and Naas, and she ran okay, but was a little bit slightly below expectation, you could say. And then she put it all together next time out the Curragh, and she was much better on better ground. She's an interesting contender, and I don't think we should totally write off Star of Mystery, who pulled too hard last time out. It was a bit of a hatchet job by Ammo Racing, if you remember. They basically set the race up for Persian Dreamer to get an easy lead in behind. So they put the pacemaker in, or a sacrificial lamb to go alongside Star of Mystery, and unfortunately that the old 3-card trick worked as Buick got involved in a pace duel for the lead, and in the end Star of Mystery blew out. But prior to that, she'd been really impressive on the clock and on the eye, winning at the same track. So if she gets a more conservative ride, then I think she's probably overpriced at 10 to 1. But in summary, I think Relief Rally is very much the one to beat here. I think she's the one with a big burst of speed that the others might not be able to cope with.
Yeah, Relief Rally 2 to 1 pretty much across the board here. A couple of firms go 7 to 4, but you shouldn't have any issue getting 2 to 1 if you want to back Relief Rally, who is Andy's right favourite. But another 2-year-old race in the second race on the card. Ziggy's Condor as the 11 to 2 favourite in what looks like a very open affair. 22 runners here over the 6 furlongs. Dragon Leader 6 to 1 second favourite. Pasika, who left that disappointing first run well behind and winning next time out, is 7 to 1. Twilight Romance 8 to 1. Dappling 12 to 1. Vanthaman 12 to 1. Angel of England 16 to 1. 20 to 1 bar those, Andy. This is where you wouldn't think that a trainer would send a promising 2-year-old here unless they'd shown something at home. Most of these with just the 1 or 2 runs, but very, very open in terms of the prices. How do you see this?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping sort of like my theory on 2-year-old races works out here. A, you want something that's run a good number. B, you want something that's progressive. And C, if you possibly can, and we have got one in the case of the horse I'm going to mention, a course and distance winner. So we've got Twilight Romance here sticking out like an absolute sore thumb. First and foremost, trained by John Quinn, as horses need. No second introduction at the moment. He had a fantastic Goodwood. And I think he's got half a decent bunch of 2-year-olds. And this one wouldn't be one of the absolute complete stars up to now. But I think to be honest, he sets a fair level of form or standard for the rest to meet. I think he was a bit unlucky last time. He got beat by We Never Stop at Pontefract in a conditions race that day when he was very strongly fancied off the back of the win at the course and distance here at York. And it was a day when they all came towards the hair rail at Pontefract. I don't know if you remember that, but I think every single race was dominated by whatever horse bagged the stand side rail. And unfortunately for Jason Hart, who was trying to get over on Twilight Romance, We Never Stopped from the Carl Burke team rather got first jump on him, and it meant that Jason Hart and Twilight Romance were running on the slowest part of the track, about 3 or 4 horsewhips away from the eventual winner. But to be fair to him, he kept on very bravely all the way to the line, never flinched. The time figure was very good, and the time figure also complemented his number when he won here over the course and distance. He's the only course and distance win in the field, which, as we talked about at the top of the show, has got to be worth an absolute par. The fact that he's already proven here on the Naasmire is absolutely massive. He's got a good cruising speed. He's got a nice turn of foot. He loves the ground. He's nicely drawn, I think. I don't think you want to be like way out on either wing. You want to be somewhere down the middle. More predominantly, you want to be behind something that's got a bit of pace. So, I think 8 to 1. Are we looking at 4 or 5 places for this? I think we are, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We've got Sky at the most places, and Betway as well, actually, who are 15 to 2 Sky Bet as a Betway. But you can get 5 places and 8 to 1 with Paddy Power, Betfair Sportsbook, and Live Score Bet. So you can get a bit of 8 to 1, 5 places too.
I would say, even though this is the second selection of the podcast, I don't think I've come across a better value bet all the way through the 4 days of the York Ebor meeting than this at that price. 15 to 2, 6 places, or 8 to 1, 4, 5 places, or whatever we're looking at. If you shop around, I mean, I'll be shocked if this is not in the first 6, because of all the reasons I've outlined: track form, time figures, yard form. You know, it was unlucky against the bias last time out. Has been targeted at this race as well by the Quins. So yeah, a big chance there for Twilight Romance to kick us off to a really good start.
Big fancy, 8 to 1, yeah, best price, as I say, Paddy's, Betfair Sportsbook and Live Score Bet. If you want those 5 places, 6 places, Sky Bet and Betway, a strong one for Andy there in this second race on the card. On to the Clipper Handicap now, over the extended 7 furlongs, where we've got Aku Naja, and it's a 6 to 1 favourite ahead of Northern Express at 8 to 1, Dutch Decoy 9 to 1, Blue for You 10 to 1, Sunny Liston also 10 to 1, Tawada and Point Linus both 12 to 1, 14 to 1, Darkness, Racing Breaks Rider 16 to 1, as is the Gatekeeper 18 to 1. Bar those 20 in at this stage, Andy. 6 places are being offered by Bet365, Sky Bet, Paddy's, Hills and Betfair Sportsbook as a Live Score Bet and Betway as well. So plenty of places to play with here.
Yeah, again, another fairly straightforward selection by myself here with Northern Express. I talked about him. I just used him as a name, as an example, when I was looking for horses that time and time again come back here and run this track particularly well. And we got several in this race, you know, your Cruyff Turns, your La Trinidad, your Eileen Dub. So when you get to the older handicappers, there's more of a body of work to suggest that we've got more course and distance form to deal with. But yeah, I think everything about Northern Express just suggests to me he's almost certain to go well. You know, he's an 8 to 1 shot with 6 places. You know, you look at his profile this season, he's yet to be out the first 5. He's performed pretty well in most of the big handicaps he's contested this season. He hasn't won all of them, but that third behind Witch Hunter, at Royal Ascot, reads well in the context of what Witch Hunter did in the Hungerford Stakes at Newbury on Saturday, won a Group 3. And then, you know, he won here at York. The third horse, Guido, went on to win next time out at Newmarket. And he's run at Ascot last time out, again, was right up there with the very best of his form in that 7 furlong handicap. Those 7 furlong handicaps at Ascot, you could always forgive a horse for not turning up once or twice and not performing to his very best when they've done so before, because you get on the wrong side of the draw, or, you know, you just don't fancy it on the day or whatever. You could easily finish mid-division as finish 3rd or 4th. And I don't think, you know, I think we're dealing with fine margins in those, you know, those kind of races. So the fact that he managed to run another career higher for mark of 102, again, off the back of all of his top class runs, suggests to me that he's about as reliable as a Swiss clock. You know, he was 3rd to Croupier in a similar race this early on in the season. That form of that race has worked out really well. He's just absolutely granite tough, this horse. I don't think he's turned up and run a bad shift here, put in a bad shift at York. He's nicely drawn. Mulrennan knows his track better than most. Like I say, 8 to 1 for him. I'd stick him in an 8-to-8 double with Twilight Romance, you know, 5, 6 places, I think. We're almost certain to get both of those 2 in the frame.
Oh, love that. Putting up a each-way double.
Portfolio, yes.
Doesn't happen too often. Just going to have a look now where the best place you can go for that would be. So the best prices you can get would be at Coral and Ladbrokes, but I think you're only getting 4 places and 5 places there. Bet365, they're 80 to 1 the double. Bet365, 75.5 the each way double, and they're getting 5 and 6. That's probably the best way to go. But again, you know, when you listen to this, go on the oddschecker app or on the oddschecker site, stick the 2 in the bet slip and see there where the best place terms and prices you can get. About 2 strong fancies there for Andy in the second and third race on Thursday. On to the Yorkshire Oaks now. Save the Last Dance is 7 to 2 favourite ahead of Blue Stocking at 9 to 2. Free win 5 to 1. Warm Heart is a Sea of Blue on oddschecker 7 to 1. Best price now, but being backed. Same price. Al Hassan is 7 to 2. 12 to 1. Ross Carberry and Novakai also 12 to 1. 14 to 1 bar those. 10 runners here, Andy. How do you see this?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Save the Last Dance. I put her up prior to when she won the Irish Oaks last time out on my column for the St Ledger, in the hope that she gets soft ground in September. That is the key to Save the Last Dance. Two are only slightly below par effort, if you could call it that, was in Our Oaks when she finished second to Soul Sister, but she just had square wheels that day. She didn't come down the hill. She absolutely hated the ground, whereas either side of that, at Chester and particularly last time at the Curragh when she won the Irish Oaks, the ground was really tested, and she's a real proper stayer, copper bottom stayer. I mean, she looked in trouble, didn't she? She hit the 1,001, didn't she, at the Curragh when she won? So it's all about stamina with her. I actually think a mile 6 on soft ground is going to be the key to her, like in September, if she turns up at Donny. I'm quite surprised that Connections are running here. I know it's a Group 1 and it's a prestigious race, blah, 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 but that good to firm ground is a real worry. It wouldn't surprise me if Warm Heart, Stabber Companion was actually to perform better of the two because of the conditions. But what it does lead me on to is nominating Blue Stocking, who only narrowly failed to beat Save the Last Dance at the Curragh, to be my selection. Now, she's currently 92 top price with William Hill. Again, we're talking about solid each way picks. I mean, this is another one. I mean, goodness me, an improving 3-year-old from a yard that is doing incredibly well this season, full stop, not only with the older horses, but the 2-year-olds, the 3-year-olds, and particularly the female sex. He's got an amazing bunch of female fillies and mares. And this one's definitely the pick of the pile. I mean, how she hasn't won a race yet so far this season is beyond me. And she just got beat by Warm Heart first time up. Track position was an absolute killer for her in the Ribblesdale. Frankie, I don't think it's Frankie's finest hour. He just got stuck in a wall of horses from a low draw, and the winner got first run, and he looked after her, and she ran on to finish third. Like I said, I think she would have won the Irish Oaks had he been quicker ground. She would have beaten Save the Last Dance, but she's got a chance to turn the form around now on a better surface. Track will suit her. She's got a great draw in stall 1. She'll go around the inside, saving ground, and then make her move in the straight. But again, another one. I can't see not running well. And obviously, we've got the Naismar factor with this one, whereas the other two have both got proven track form. So you'd be more, confident in saying that they're going to run their races because of the track. But other than that, that's the only negative I could point in the way of Blue Stocking.
Yeah, Blue Stocking, 9-2 best price. That standout with William Hill. Generally, 7-2, 4-1 across the board for another strong selection for Andy. Skybet also going 4 places here, 7-2 if you really want to lock in the extra place there with 10 runners, with Andy being pretty confident that Blue Stocking will run. There are 3 more left on the card. A couple of handicaps finished today. We've got a listed race here in the 410 with Madara, the 5-1 joint favourite with C Theme. Morikana is 7-1, One Evening 8-1, Spring Fever, Scenic and Market Value all 11-1, 12-1 bar those, Andy. 13 runners here.
Yeah, I like a couple here. I'd have to give a huge amount of respect to anything that William Haggis runs in a race like this. He's won it a couple of times in recent times with lightly raced sorts. And I think it's very significant that he runs C Theme here off the back of winning a maiden at Doncaster. Now, that would look almost like nonsensical to many trainers, but William Haggis has got such an array of knowledge, a vast temple of knowledge, that he'd know exactly what it would take to win a race like this. He obviously knows that C Theme's up to it, no question about that. And then when you go back and analyse that race that she won at Doncaster, and look at the time figure and the numbers that surrounded that race, that definitely rubber stamps his belief that she could be at least a pattern filly. She only just got going in that back end of that race, but her back end sectionals were really good. It complemented a very strongly race for a small field, because the number, it was by far and away the best furlong per furlong time on that Doncaster card that day. That was a month ago, so she comes here quite fresh. She hasn't got as many scars, if you like, as a lot of the other horses that have. I think we're going to see a big performance from her. And the other one I mentioned is Scenic, who has got really good solid course form. Now, she ran behind one of Richard Fahey's here last time out in a really good listed race called Midnight Mile or Midnight Millie, and she ran well at Haydock next time out and backed that time figure up. I thought Scenic kept on really well in the latter stages that day. She just got a little bit outpaced over the 1.25 miles and ran on as if 1.5 miles is definitely what she requires. Now, she's still a maiden. So again, that would be not the wisest policy to be backing maidens going into a listed race. But again, Ed Walker's, knows the price of fish, and he's also been in good form all season long. So I'd be 2 against the field there. I'd have to back the Sea Theme at 5-1, and then I'll have a little bit of a cover bet on Scenic at 11s.
Yeah, 5-1. That Sea Theme is best price. Standout price for Sky Bet, who are also 5 places there. So you're getting, extra places and the top price. Scenic is 11-1, pretty much across the board. 365. Hills amongst those where you can back Scenic at 11-1 with Oisin Murphy on board. We've got a nursery and the Fillies handicap to finish. Andy, anything in these two that stands out? I won't run through the markets.
Yeah, I've had a brief look at the nursery. I haven't gone through it with an absolute fine tooth comb. I was looking for something that would absolutely stand out in the figures. There isn't anything that really does float my boat in that. So I'll probably just gloss over that for now and look at the Fillies handicap, because there is one in that race that I do quite like. Now, the only negative or asterisk I'd have next to my selection here would be the ground. That's a filly called Nagiri. Again, I'm talking about a filly trained by Rafe Beckett, but I was hugely impressed with her when she won at Haydock last time out. Now, that ground that day was heavy, so like I say, it takes a little bit of persuaded to try and back her on good to firm ground, which it looks likely to be on the second day. But I love the way she hit the line at Haydock. Her time was good. Her back end sectionals were the second quickest on the card. There was only one race that was quick, and I think it was a 6 furlong handicap from 3 out. So she was really operating at a good level. Now, a handicapper only put her up £5 to 18. I think she's much better than that. I think the only way that she wouldn't back up my theory of her being a better horse than an 80 horse would be the ground. But at least she has run well on good ground and on a fast surface on the all-weather. So there isn't a big enough body of evidence to suggest that she won't handle it. Not probably my number one choice of the day, but a choice that I think punters or viewers of this podcast should keep on the side of, even whatever she does on Thursday, because I do think Rafe Beckett's got a well handicapped horse there.
Yeah, Nagiri there 6-1 with Betfair Sportsbook. Paddy Power, Sky Bet and 365. Sky Bet again with an extra place, going 6 places, an extra couple of places. One to look out for in the last. That is Thursday ticked off. We'll now move straight into Friday, kicking off. I mean, there's a handicap to open up with here. Where we've got balance play 5-1, Woodton Sun 13-2, Intinzo 7-1, 10-1 bar those. Andy, any strong view in the first?
Yeah, I like the top two there. Paradias and Woodton Sun. Woodton Sun was just got beat by Scampy. He was a big fancy for the Ebor. Again, that time figure was very good at Ascot last time out. Model of consistency from a yard that does well at its track. I think that'll go well. And Paradias, the ground just went against him last time out at Goodwood, but he ran his face off, finishing 4th in a very high handicap. His only bad run was the time before when he pulled too hard and Hollydore went all the way around the outside on the home turn. But he comes out really well on our data. So both of those two have run big numbers over a mile and a quarter this season, and they look as though a mile and a half will be absolutely ideal for them. So yeah, I'd be looking at the top two there, Paradias and Woodton Sun.
Paradias, as I say, sorry. Woodton Sun 13-2, Paradias 10-1. That's a massive standout there with William Hill. About 7-1 is market price. The Lonsdale Cup next up is the second race on Friday, just over 2 miles. Coltrane is the 11-4 favourite. Had a Quick Thorn at 3-1. Courage Mon Ami is 130. Givolotto is 13-2. Broome 17-2. River of Stars 22-1, Nate the Great 25-1. 7 runners here, Andy, but Sky Bet are still paying 3 places if you can find an each way angle. Yeah,
been a fascinating race because we all saw what happened at Goodwood with Quickthorn stealing a march on his opposition. It's not the first time, by the way, that he's done that. I think if that was the only evidence of body of work you think of him nicking a race, and perhaps one or two of the other jockeys in behind sleeping, then you'd say, well, you'd want to take him on. But he's done it. He's done it before. He did it here in this race last year, if you remember. He beat Coltrane 14 lengths. So, Tom Marquand will be fully aware that he's got a horse who's got a very good bit of tactical acumen. And you'd have to say he's the one to beat. You know, he's the only course and distance win in the field. He obviously loves it here at York. It's not the first time that he's run well at York. So the others have, got to pull their socks up to turn a form around. Encouragement on me was well beaten at Goodwood. I could slightly forgive Coltrane because he was the head of the peloton that was chasing Quickthorn. And I think Oisin Murphy was kind of like caught in no man's land where he didn't know whether to stick or twist. And in the end, that sort of effort to try and close down Quickthorn, it ultimately cost him second. I just think a lot of jockeys in this race will be more aware of what's going on than they were at Goodwood. They kind of like slept walk through that race. So I don't think necessarily be as easy as it was for Quickthorn to develop that big lead that he did last time. He might have to do it a slightly different way, but he's a very, very dangerous horse if he does get an uncontested lead. And I can't see another horse in this race that would want to take him on. So he's likely to give another bold show. So he would be my pick, but it wouldn't surprise me. You could throw that race up, the ball's in the air, and you'd get a different result depending on how it would be run.
So Quickthorn, is 3-1. William Hill, Bet Victor, Sporting Index, Quinbet, Bet Goodwin, and Parry Match. So plenty of threes about across the oddschecker grids there about Quickthorn to follow up that Goodwood win with another one here at York. The Jim Crack is the 3 o'clock, where Killian is the 2-1 favourite ahead of Johan Brahm at 11 to 4, Hartum 8-1, King's Gamble 10-1, Action Point 12-1, Emperor's Son 14-1, 20-1 by those.
Yeah, respect Killian. He's obviously a horse who's run to a fair standard so far this season. He's third on unsuitable soft ground at Goodwood. Reads really well, but I'd probably go with Johan Brahms here from the Aidan O'Brien stable, who hasn't run since finishing second to Big Evs in the Windsor Castle. I did think that Windsor Castle this year was an above average renewal of that race. Obviously, the winner's gone on to win at better company next time. The time figure suggests it was one of the better 2-year-old races of the week. And you'd have to like the way that Johan Brahms hit the line at Ascot. He was all at sea over 5 furlongs. He just was too short a trip for him, is the long and short of it. He'd won on his debut at 6 over 6, similar to Little Big Bear had done the year before, and they got away with it with Little Big Bear when he beat Rocket Rodney. And they tried to do it again with another 6 furlong horse, thinking his stamina will come to play, but they didn't really count for Big Ev's jumping away over the horizon. So I think they were a bit unlucky with Johan Brahms, but they've kind of reevaluated the situation, thought, okay, he's a 6 furlong horse. What's the next big 6 furlong sort of Group 2 2-year-old race? And it's the Jim Crack. And the fact that he's the only runner from the Aidan O'Brien stab, and they're not running sort of 2 or 3 in it, suggests to me that this is their one for this race. So I'm going to go against the home contingent and go with Aidan O'Brien here with Johan Brahms.
Johan Brahm 11-4. Again, Sky Bet 4 places if you want to go each way. Paddy's at Bet Sportsbook and Bet Victor also 11-4 about the Aidan O'Brien challenger here, ridden by Ryan Moore, of course. On to the Nunthorpe, the big race on Friday. Highfield Princess in sparkling form yet again last time. 11-8 favourite for this one. Bradsell for Archie Watson, Holly Doyle 4-1. Big Evs, who you just mentioned there, is 7-1 here. Maybe a related each way double. Dramatised 10-1. Regional 10-1. 18-1 bar. In Highfield Princess 11-8 in a 16 runner 5 furlong affair at Nagsmire won't appeal to everybody. What do you make of that price?
Yeah, I think she's probably just about on balance and her overall profile. She is probably just the right favourite, but not as big as perhaps what she should be against Bradsell. And again, I think we're dealing with another fantastic each way bet here with Bradsell. I mean, you've got to remember that Bradsell's already beaten Highfield Princess this season in the best 5 furlong race up until now, and that was the King's Stand. And I've watched that race until I'm blue in the face, and I thought Bradsell was a worthy winner on the day. He probably hadn't had as better preparation than Highfield Princess, and yet he proved too strong. So you look at it and think, well, okay, Highfield Princess has got an advantage because of her Naysmire form. She won this race last year. Is that a negative against Bradsell? Now you look at Bradsell and you think, well, no, because he's won here before, albeit as a 2-year-old, but he won by a long margin before he went on to win at Royal Ascot. So he ticks that box as well. He's got a really good draw. He's drawn in stall 9, which is right down the middle, which I think that's where they'll go, down the tip of the arrow. He'll be able to see where his main market rival is, or Holly Doyle will, of course, with High Princess being drawn in stall 6. And I think these two are by far and away the standout candidates in the sense that they're the two preeminent Group 1 horses over 5 furlongs. You look at a lot of the others, your Dramatise, your Nymphadoras, your Makarovas, your Ladies' Churches, your Twilight Calls. At the moment, they're not really Group 1 horses as such. They're probably sort of Group 2, Group 3 fodder. I think Big Ed's is an interesting runner, with a 2-year-old with a weight for age. I think he's a real live contender if he handles a Naismar. We know he's very, very quick off his time in the Windsor Castle. I thought he did well to win despite the ground at Goodwood, which proves that he's a really tough cookie. So I don't think we should dismiss him completely out of hand, because it'd be dangerous to do so. But again, a 4-1 Bradsell, wherever Highfield Princess finishes, he's surely got to be there or thereabouts. And being as I'm an each-way man, and I'm looking at sort of putting some horses in each-way multiples, he'd definitely be almost banker material as well.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, 4-1 across the board there. Skyback go 5 places. 4-1, 5 places. You can hear from Andy's puff of his cheeks that he's excited by the prospect of that. Yeah, Bradsell 4-1, 5 places there for Andy. A strong selection against Highfield Princess in the Nunthorpe. 3 more races on the card. We've got prices in just one of them, which is the Fillies Handicap, which comes after the Nunthorpe, the 4-10. Rawaya is the 3-1 favourite ahead of Amanzo at 15-2. Sirona 8-1. Youngest 10-1. La Sint and Reach also 10-1. 11-1. Sisfia Strength. Chelsea Green and others 14-1 and bigger. Andy.
Yeah, which is rather handy, because that Fillies Handicap, which we've got prices, there's only available with prices on, is the race that I really like. And there's a horse here that I do think is massively overpriced. I think pound for pound, Jessica Harrington has got to be one of the better Irish trainers percentage-wise when she comes over and targets a certain race with a certain horse, particularly fillies, as we saw at Royal Ascot with Villanova Queen, who caused a bit of a shock when she won at the Royal meeting. And Jessie's not a trainer similar to like Dermot Weld or John Ox back in the day that would waste a bullet. She wouldn't just be coming over here as a social runner, to have a day out. She'd be coming over here with the right filly that she thought was good enough to win a race of this nature. I think. Did you say 12-1 for Launchinter?
We've got.
Sure, you said 12-1.
10-1.
10-1. Sorry, 10-1. Either way, I mean, 10-1's an absolute insult for this horse. I don't think you'll see a more physically imposing looking filly than this one in the parade ring. Like all the paddock judges, the Ken Petersons of this world will be drooling over her. She is a proper unit. A very masculine looking filly. She only just won last time out at Galway, but the horse that she beat, Melbay Madness, has gone on to win next time out. And I love the way she travelled through that race. She was probably a bit unlucky the time before. I just think she was caught out by the nature of that very strongly run or strong handicap at Leopardstown the time before. It was a race called the Nusrolla Handicap, which is one of the most prestigious races that's run in Ireland throughout the season. And Cordor, the horse that finished third, went on to win the BMW Mile next time out. So I wouldn't hold it against her. That was the first time she was in really deep, but I think she learned plenty from that. The track on the Naismar is going to suit this horse down to the ground. She's got a lovely long stride about her, covers a lot of ground. Mile and a quarter is absolutely what she's been crying out for. And I still think she's well handicapped at 91. I think she's a pattern filly in the making. I have noticed that I think Jessie's put her in a couple of listed races over in Ireland. So this will definitely do for me. Off a mark of 91 in a handicap. So again, very, very strong on Launchinter at 10-1.
I don't think I've ever on this show had so many strong fancies, Andy. It's very exciting. I have to go back and listen back through to this straight away. Lancinter 10-1, Sky Bet at 5 places. Again, most firms are 3. But yeah, you've got plenty of tens there to capitalise on what looks, well, certainly from Andy's point of view, looks to be a bit of a rick on behalf of the price that Lancet has been put in at. The last 2 races on the card, Andy, no prices. We've got a maiden in the 4:45 where the majority of the horses are having their first run. And in the last race, we've got a 7 furlong handicap where, we've got no prices. Is there anything for people just to stick into their notebooks ahead of prices coming out on Thursday afternoon?
Not really, no. I'm more than happy to sort of skip over both those 2 races. Yeah, as you said, the Convivial Maiden's always a keenly contested heat. A lot of the big names tend to run their best horses here. Aiden's brought one over, but there's nothing standing out on the numbers anyway. And I wasn't overly struck on anything in the last race. Again, another one I probably haven't done a huge amount of work on. A lot of the other fancies I mentioned, the balls just come onto the bat straight away. I know exactly where I'm at. I know the numbers, the profile of the horse, the kind of race that they're running in, the targets that the trainers have set them out for. But yeah, that one, not really. I'll be a million to one to stick a horse in my column out of that race.
Well, let's go over to Saturday then. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, we're recording this at about midday on Wednesday. So we don't have final decks in yet, which means that if you do have a bet here and a horse doesn't run, then of course, that bet is settled as a loser rather than void. Also means we don't have any, we don't have any idea of the draw either. So just a couple of caveats here. And we'll just go through the races that we do have prices for, which I think are the Strensel Stakes. We've got the City of York. We've got the Ebor, of course. We've got the Constantine Handicap too. So 4 races on the final day. And the Strensel Stakes, Nostrum is a sea of blue this morning. 7-4 best price, having been, I think it was a bit of 11-4 round first thing this morning. So Nostrum clearly expected to run here and therefore has been backed accordingly. 7-4 now. Royal Champion 3-1, El Drama 5-1, Passenger and Jimi Hendrix both 8-1, Chindit 10-1. Sharon 12-1, Flight Pan 14-1. I mean, a lot of these won't run, Andy. But where do you sit on this at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, Nostrum's, one of the sexy horses of this race by a mile, isn't he? Probably one of the seasons, really. He created a massive impression when he won at Newmarket first time out. I was there that day, and he beat Ambesto, a horse I've got a huge amount of time for. He dead heated the other day at Salisbury, so the form was really good. I just think things just didn't quite work out for him at Goodwood. He's obviously well backed again. A lot of the sort of pros got really stuck into him, but it was a week, by and large, front runners on soft ground had a bit of a bad record, and I just think he fell victim of that. I don't think Ryan Moore had too many options, by the way, because I think he just had a horse that he wanted to go on and make plenty of use of. He didn't want it to become into a tactical battle, but he rather set it up for the stayer, Epictetus, who is a 1.25 mile horse, and ultimately, in the end, he just got outstayed by a stronger stayer at the trip on the day. But I think the better ground, presumably it's going to be better ground Saturday, by the way. If it is good ground, it'll suit him much better. I think the track will suit him better. I didn't think going downhill was really ideal for him at Goodwood. So yeah, I think that 7-4 will be under pressure. In fact, I think it'll be a lot shorter on the day because a lot of these will probably look to go elsewhere, and it's probably not as ideal for them that it is Nostrum. For instance, Spirit Dancer would be a horse I'd look at ordinarily at York because he got such a good record here on the Naysmire and he's in really good form, but he's more a 1.25 mile horse than a miler, so where the connections will roll the dice with him, I don't know. So I think Nostrum is very much a horse that a lot of punters are going to be getting stuck into. He could be even money or even odds on the day. So
still maybe a bit of juice in that 7-4. It's not all gone yet. So. Paddy's, Hills, Betfair Sportsbook and Live Score Bet still 7-4 there about Nostrum in the Strensel Stakes, which is the first race on the card on Saturday, the 150. No price for the Melrose. So on to the City of York now, where Kinross is the 13-8 favourite, Sacred 9-2, Isaac Shelby 6-1, Alsa Hale 8-1, as is Mr. Beck. Olivia Meralda 14s, Angel Blue 16s, Jumbly 16s, 20-1 by those. Andy, Kinross all, I mean, a little bit shorter than Nostrum here. You're with Nostrum, you're with Kinross here.
Yeah, unless the ground firms up really badly, I think it's the only reason why you wouldn't like Kinross. He's still a good horse on good ground, or good to firm ground, but not as good as he is on soft. I think it inconveniences others more than him I think that's the best way to put it.
Mm.
He won the race last year, so now he handles York. I think his campaign has been very much targeted towards the autumn. He didn't come back in until sort of midway through the season. Got beat well beat first time out. Needed the run, much better next time in the July Cup, and then struck at Goodwood last time out, beating Isaac Shelby. That's the key form line. He beat Sacred in this race last year when Sacred was a warm fancy. She disappointed, which was a little bit off-putting for her. Given that William Haggis's horses by and large like the Knavesmire. So you'd have to say that Isaac Shelby on that basis is the each way alternative to Kinross. Having run well over 7 furlongs throughout the season, he's winning the Green and was good. His runs over a mile have been just as good, but not as productive with regards winning. But he's a very, very good 3-year-old, Isaac Shelby. So that's the only way I could offer, or the only angling on this race I could offer for punters looking at this video now. I'd say Isaac Shelby each way at 6-1 might be an angle in.
Yeah, 6-1 with most firms there. Isaac Shelby could be the way if this race does cut up as well. That could not last that long. I said there were no prices for the Melrose. I was wrong. So we can go back in time quickly and just have a look at the second race on the card, where Lordship is a 6-1 favourite ahead of Denmark, Alhambra Palace, Vaguely Royal, all 8-1, 9-1 Middle Earth, Davideo 10-1, The Goat 10-1, True Legend 10-1. I mean, again, Andy, with all these, it's very difficult to do these previews justice because of the unknowns around the runners. We've got the Ebor next up, which we should know a little bit more about. But anything in the Melrose there standing out to you?
I'd be looking towards a couple that I quite like. I've been waiting for Vaguely Royal to run for a little while. The fact that he hasn't run for 69 days suggests to me that the Gosdens have probably targeted this. He's been gelded since he last ran at Donny when he won, but his 4 million of the season ties in with quite a lot of good 3-year-old maiden strike handicap form, which has worked out really well. That second at Chepstow, incidentally, was a really good race of the grade on the figures. I don't mind him at all. He's very much a horse I think will improve for stepping up in trip and on good ground and a galloping track. And I've always been a big fan, as regular viewers of my column will testify, of Dasho Lenny. I think he's been on my column at least 3 times so far this season. Luckily, he managed to win last time and justify my loyalty when he won quite well actually at Ripon, but he clocked a big number that day, and that's been the key to Dasho Lenny. As a time man, he's always been producing the kind of numbers which has made him almost impossible for me not to pick him. His number at Newbury was good when he got beat. His number behind Fairbanks was good. I think that Fairbanks has been sold to go around the globe somewhere. He's basically bumped into some really good 3-year-olds throughout the season, and I'd be fairly sure that Dasho Lenny, whatever happens, will run his race. So those would be the 2 I'd be looking at this stage: Vaguely Royal and Dasho Lenny.
Vaguely Royal 8-1 across the board. Dasho Lenny 16-1. Paddy's Betfair Sportsbook, Coral, Unibet, and a couple of others too. Andy's 2 against the field there in the Melrose. 2 more races to cover off. Ebor now, where Sweet William is the 4-1 favourite. Sky Bet are 6 places here. Standout Paddy's a 5 as a Betfair Sportsbook. Now, Real Dream 8-1, Absurd 8-1, Live Your Dream 12-1, Jack Finn Bar 14-1, Scampy 16s, Juvent 16s, Chillingham Scriptwriter both 16-1 as well, Yashin 18-1, Nuzrit, Zoffman, Wooten Son, HMS President all 20-1, 25-1 bar those. Andy, who wins the Ebor in 2023?
It'd be no surprise if it was Sweet William. Horse on a roll. Don't really know the ceiling, to be honest. I thought he won despite the ground at Haydock. He was good the time before, on much better surface. I think that'll be the key to him long term. I think he wants just nice, good ground. But yeah, the good ones tend to win on any ground thrown at them. Or the very, very well handicapped ones do, and he proved it that day when he won at Goodwood that he was. 4-1 skinny enough. Funny enough, I do think the horse that chased him home has got a squeak of not necessarily turning the form around, but perhaps getting a bit closer because of, again, I think he'll want better ground. That's Adjuvant. He chased him home at Goodwood. But that was the first time he'd really encountered ground as bad as that. He got a little bit of soft ground form, but unlike Sweet William, who hasn't stepped forward here on the Naze Mile, at least with Adjuvant, you've got the caveat of him running well at this track twice before, particularly his run behind Solcombe. If you remember in the Melrose. Now the Melrose is the sort of 3-year-old version of the Ebor run on the same day. I actually think that last year's Melrose was a better race than the Ebor itself, because Solcombe subsequently got sold to go down to Australia, if you remember, and I think he's a live fancy for the Melbourne Cup this season, coming up in November at Flemington. So they think he's a group horse over there in Australia. So Adjuvant off 95 on better ground, having run well around the track twice, and having run well beyond Sweet William, he's like 4 times the price as the favourite. So I think that's value. And the other one I'll mention as well is Scampi. Now we'd be hoping for a good run from Wootton Son. I mentioned him early on in the piece.
Yeah.
On the Thursday or the Friday, can't remember what day it was. But that time figure of his of Ascot was really good. The pair of them pulled well clear. I thought Safi Osborne was really good on him that day. And he also has got York form as well. He was really unlucky in the mile and a quarter race, the John Smith's. He got a terrible draw. He was dropped right out, but he finished off very well to only get beat 5 lengths by Pride of America. But going back here at the May meeting, the Dante meeting, he was really good that day when he come from a long way back. He's got the real archetypal York profile stroke, the way he likes to be ridden, i.e. dropped out, brought with a late run. Most of the winners on the round track over a mile, a half mile and 6 tend to be they tend to be ridden in that fashion.
Yeah.
And Safi Osborne's been booked again. So a couple of 16-1 pokes there for me at this stage, George. Obviously, there'll be a bit more places on the day available, 6, 7 places, etc. Sky Bet might even go 8 because it's their own race.
Yeah.
But 16-1 for Scampi, 16-1 for Adjuvant. Surely one of them will be in the first 4 or 5.
And maybe one will win. Scampi,
exactly. Yeah.
Scampi 16-1 with Spread X. And with Bet365, Juven 16-1 with every single firm on oddschecker. So there you have Andy's 2 against the field in the Ebor. Finally, with the Constantine handicap, Summerhand is the 7-1 favourite ahead of Aberama Gold at 8-1. Orazio is 10-1. The Green Man 12-1. Dakota Gold 12-1. Fresh, Mr. Wagyu, Designer, Kings Lynn, Gateforce Maya all 12-1, 14-1 bar those. Andy, anything, again, some caveats here as to likely runners. But anything you like here?
A lot depend on the ground stroke draw only. With a lot of those other races we've discussed on the Saturday, not necessarily too bothered so much. Even if you get a high draw in the Ebor or the Melrose, for instance, you're not totally dead in the water. But I do think come Saturday, for instance, if you're drawing 1 or 22 in a 22 run field, you could be in trouble. So my selection might be totally meaningless by then. But I'd probably be prepared to give Mums Tipple another go, because don't you remember he was back in the day one of the most impressive winners ever seen on the Naze Mile when he won that 2-year-old sales race. The heavy ground went against him at Goodwood. I actually put him on my column that day, thinking he might just get away with it, but I wasn't expecting that much rain on the day. Absolutely chucked it down. It was so much so that they abandoned the meeting with one more race after the Stewards Cup. But you go back to his run the time before in the Woking, when he was 4th beyond St Lawrence. I think that's arguably one of the standout bits of form. So with that in mind, and the fact that he now goes back to the Naze-Mire, one of his happy hunting grounds, I think he might be slightly overlooked, and he's currently, 20-1, Mums Tipple?
16-1.
16. Yeah. So I just think he's overpriced off the back of one bad run, but that one bad run can be a given because of the ground.
Yeah, 16-1 with Bet365, Coral, Unibet, Live Score, and Ladbrokes. Thank you very much, Andy. That is the for sharing your thoughts with us ahead of the Ebor Festival at York on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Really insightful stuff there and some strong selections, exciting stuff. Hopefully, we'll be seeing some multis land over the course of the week.
I think that each way Yankee would be Twilight Romance, Blue Stocking, Bradsell, and Northern Express.
So Johan Brahm left out of the each way Yank.
Probably, yeah. Those have been my strongest 4 at the prices with the sort of the shape of the races. I.e., you get 4 or 5 places. Johan Brahm's only 3 places. So let's say 4-1, 4 places Blue Stocking, 4-1 5 places Bradsell, 8-1 5 6 places Twilight Romance, and similar price brackets for Northern Express, 7 or 8-1 5 6 places. If you shop around and do all those in a each way Yankee, hopefully all 4 will come in. Well, not necessarily all win, but you'd like to think that the play side of the bet might be safe.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Well, thank you very much, Andy, as ever, for sharing your thoughts with us. Really interesting. And hopefully, you said at the top of the show that your record at the Naas Mire isn't great. Hopefully that'll change over the coming week or so. I think we're having a week off next week. We'll be back early in September with Leopardstown coming up. So I think that's our next assignment. So we'll see you then. Please do subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel, where you can find plenty more preview content across sports, and download the oddschecker app, where you can find the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, and everything else up on there, including Andy's tips straight to the app every morning of racing. Have a great week enjoying the racing at York. Please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.